And as we get up to date on all the charts, then it becomes just a weekly process of, sorry if the sound is cracking up, I don't know what would be coming up right now. As we get down to the short time frames, and it's just every week, once a week, we just go through what's happened since the last update, discuss all the different markets we do, the S&P, T-notes, gold, euro currency, and on all charts we go from 6 month down monthly, down to weekly, down to daily, and keep up with all those different charts on each time frame and discuss when there's critical potential buying opportunities, selling opportunities, and so forth. Like right now for gold, I'm pretty sure we're forming a pretty major bottom there in gold. It may take a few more weeks or a month or so to set it up, but that structure is starting to clear up. S&P structure is really clear. It's the clearest I've ever seen it in at least 10 years, maybe 20 years. Euro, so, not so clear. T-notes are pretty clear. So it's been really nice to do my updates the last year because things are really getting a lot easier. Anyone else have any questions about today's discussion, about the class, about wave analysis, or anything? Not sure if Magellan is still around. Let me, Magellan says that the sound is chopping up. I'm not sure what I can do about that. Let me go ahead and close some of my alarms here on my computer. Maybe that will help. Give me 1 second while I do that. Okay, so all that stuff is now cleaned out. I'm going to go ahead and close some of my long-term charts and hope and pray that that helps out. Also, the daily charts are not clear. You can see how complicated they are, so I'm not going to attempt to do any analysis on those charts. Somebody has a question. Can you take us through this wave C of wave 4 on monthly time frame? Take us through wave C and wave 4. This C wave, you mean? Okay, so on the monthly charts, you can see that the A wave and the C wave are almost exactly the same in complexity, time, and price. This C wave was unbelievably uncharacteristically large and violent, but everything else, all the other rules are met. You can see there's clear similarity between the two waves that are shorter. There's overlap between B and D. There's alternation to the extreme between B and D, and that's, I think, because of how big the C wave was, how outrageous it was. I think this was this situation was fundamentally stretched to the extreme because of banking failures and real estate manipulation, with the government allowing banks to, not write off, but to give out loans without having any risk. And everybody tries to blame the banks, and the government never wants to blame itself. But the real problem was that the government was allowing banks to write loans that were protected by the government. So of course the banks are going to write as many loans as they can because that's how they make money. So they were just doing what they were allowed to do. The government was the real problem. The government allowed them to do it. They didn't allow them to do it, it would have never happened. So the real estate market would not have been so distorted and corrupted. And that's why I think this stretched way beyond normal limits, but it would be the extended wave. So we could put a little X there. And the D wave did overlap the B wave. It did alternate to the extreme. And when the C wave finished, you can see we had a violent move up, the biggest, fastest we've seen almost since the low. And it was substandard. It wasn't quite as big as it should have been, but we had this expanding bias that allowed me to have this substandard thrust. So that's what I think the big picture is for the C wave of the neutral triangle. Okay, how do you feel the gold is bottoming now? No, wait till I do. Let me pull up a gold chart. I'm gonna, guess I'll keep these charts open. Okay, so do I think the E wave could be as violent as the 2008 decline? No. It should be somewhere halfway between the violentness of wave A, which was pretty bad. I mean, that was involving September 11th in there. So halfway between 2000 high to 2002's low and the 2007 to 2008 low. So we're still talking pretty significant, but then we also have the issue that the D wave has taken an unbelievable amount of time compared to the C wave. So if we add those together and divide it by 2, that really is projecting the E wave is going to be about 4 years. So there may be some violent movement during the E wave, and I think there'll be quite a bit of very scary decline. So unlike the drop in 2008, where we had most of it happen very fast, it didn't keep pushing lower and lower and lower, where we hit the low and then bounced for months and made another new low and bounced for months, and we just every month we were just dropping and dropping and dropping. So this could be different for the final E wave, which is, I close the, looks like I closed the long-term monthly chart. Give me a second, I gotta reopen it. So I'm dealing with, is the sound, by the way, getting better now since I closed all those alarms on my computer? Okay, so in this particular case, we're dealing with a multitude of factors and relationships. We have, first of all, the price of wave A. It has to be shorter than wave C to be part of a neutral triangle. And we have the swiftness of wave C, which is less than wave A from high to low. So it's going to have to take more time. We have a tremendous time difference between this and this. So we add them together divided by 2. Which projects something like that. So here it'd be about the ideal time, and you take the ideal amount of price, and you add those together, and so you get this. So I would expect most likely we're going to get multiple scary scenarios to relive this and scare the hell out of people, make them think this time it's really the beginning of a 1929 style bear market. So like a really violent drop and it bounces a lot and think, oh, it's over with. It's going to make another new drop to new lows and oh my God, it's getting worse. And it's going to rally again, think, oh, the worst is over, and it's going to do it again. I think we'll probably get 3 or 4 major breaks and major rallies to really scare people out. Because remember, to start the next bull market and get the S&P up to 10,000, the Dow up to 100,000 more, we're going to have the most extreme shakeout of all time. I can't get this thing to properly here. Okay, so it's going to take years and years of scaring the hell out of people to get us set up for that. Okay, so let me go back to the other questions here. How do I feel about gold? So I'm going to go and move on to the gold chart. Okay. This is incorporating some of my new price time windows that help to better predict where things are and where they're going. So on a super long-term basis, this appears to be the count in gold. This rally does not look impulsive. This rally does not look impulsive. This correction is too shallow to be correcting an impulsive advance. But since it's a really huge advance, I assume it's a impulsive terminal advance. So we don't have any data going back, before anything accurate before like 1920s or so. So I'm assuming we're in a terminal 5-wave move. We have wave 1, 2, 3, and we're working on wave 4. Wave 4 in a terminal has to overlap wave 1. It looks like gold is going to have to break 600 before we can turn around and go back above 1900. The goal should be this sideways to down phenomenon for years and years. This is going to go on for a decade or more. Zooming in on that, since B waves virtually always take more time than A waves, with a few exceptions, but they almost always do. All we have to do is take the time of wave A and add it to the time of wave B, and we get the minimum time typical for a B wave. So originally I had it here, and if you take 61% of it, this is a log scale. So if we take 61% of that, get my ratio divider out here so I can make this measurement. If you don't have a ratio divider, you can get them on Amazon.com. They're very handy or looking at charts that don't have computerized Fibonacci relationships. So here's 61% of wave A and 100% time. And in almost all cases, a B wave will take at least as much time as wave A and retrace at least 61%. If it's going to do that, it also needs to keep up with the average rate of ascent required to achieve that target. You can see the market is falling way behind that. So I had to assume this is not going to be a typical B wave. It's going to take more time than wave A at the very least. So that's why I had to make the projection much further out. If we double the time, then we're keeping up with this line of progression. And if we double the time, we also can reduce the vertical price, because it's going to take a lot more time and just a lot less price, because it doesn't need to go as high anymore if it's going to take twice as much time. So it still could rally more, but the way it's looking, you want it to maintain, at least during the first 50% of its correction, you want it to maintain a movement above the average rate of ascent. This is some new discoveries I've made regarding price and time, and projecting forward the price and time minimum requirements for future patterns. So if it doesn't stay above this line, then the line you have is probably too large or too fast, or it needs adjustment, and you want to adjust it to where the market's keeping up with it, at least to the midpoint. So if we double the time and we take only about 38% of wave A, then we're keeping up with the price time projection. So that makes me think that wave B is actually going to finish way over here. So if wave B only retraces 38% of wave A, that's not allowed in flats. It could happen in a zigzag, but in a zigzag, wave A would have to be impulsive. So we'd have to change this, what looks like a correction, to an impulsive. It could be an impulsion, but we'd have to change that. But the B waves have to take a lot more time. Okay, so we'll see how it goes, but this is my current best guess for the price and time consumption of wave B. And the evidence, since wave A looks more corrective than impulsive, would suggest that we're actually in a triangle. So we get a B wave, and then the C wave would be maybe 61% of the A wave, and then we get a D wave rally that would overlap the B wave range, and we get another sell-off. Or it turns out to be a diametric. There's several different possibilities. This is the only chart I have that really covers any length of time, but the next drop would have to be probably larger than wave A to get us close to our 600 target. So it looks like it may actually have to be bigger than wave A to do that. Because remember, larger charts rule. So when you have a target on a larger chart, it has to get there. So whatever count you produce on a smaller time frame has to consider that you have to get there. So if we have to get to 600, wave C is probably going to have to be bigger than wave A. So that suggests the decline will either be a diametric or an expanding triangle, and we'll have to see how that goes. When B waves are less than 61% of wave A's, typically means you're in a triangle. So an expanding triangle might be the best scenario for this